This is Slim and Large, and today we have three filmmaker movie buffs. Greg Young, we have Tom O'Brien, and the one and only Gaucho Mike. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Obi.
Amazing.
Thanks, man.
Great stuff. All right, so who wants to start with their background and how they got into, filmmaking and movies, etc.?
I suppose, yeah. So I started. I suppose it all started when I was probably 10. I saw Jaws and Dawn of the Dead back to back, and I kind of blew my mind, and I realized that I didn't want to do anything else for the rest of my life, and started, kind of the classic filmmaker story. Really, just picked up my parents' camcorder, started making little things at home, writing stories. Usually very gory horror stories. Not much has changed, and then went through school, made my first couple of short films, roped an entire class into being zombies one day. That was good fun, and then went to film school in Ballyfermot for about 4 or 5 years, and ever since then, I've been now out of college about 4 years now, and since then I've just continued making shorts and a couple of music videos. I think I'm actually working on my next film. I just finished a film, but my next one will be my 10th. So,
Wow.
yeah. That's me.
So you said you already have 10. You're about to have 10 films under your
Yeah,
belt.
I'm working on a script at the moment. It'll be my 10th.
How did you get into, like, what are the roles in your filmmaking? So you a writer? You talked about gaffer before.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
I've kind of, I'm sure like the same with Michael and Greg. I've kind of done a lot of different things. You know what I mean? Like I've recorded sound, I've edited, I've operated cameras, I've even production design one
Yeah.
stage. But no, I'd say primarily I would consider myself primarily a writer director, more so a writer.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, is you go onto a film set and you ask someone what they do, they're always going to say that they're the director no matter what they fucking do. So, but like, no, just to
Everyone wants the throne.
Everyone wants the throne, yeah,
Yeah.
but heavy is the head, etc. But
Exactly.
just to add to that is that yeah, it's like when you're working in an independent space, when you're starting off, when you're young, when you don't have any money, but everyone is going after the same thing, you have to form a tight-knit crew, and that
Yeah.
involves, you can't be egotistical, you have to be focused, but you can't be egotistical,
100%.
and that means doing everything that you can to be on the set, and that makes you a better filmmaker in general, because generally the director is the least talented person on set. They're the one who knows the least, because they're nerds. Most directors are nerds.
Yes.
I'll put my hand up for that. But the more that you know about every little thing, about camera, about sound, the more value you can bring, the better questions you can ask,
Yes.
the more that you can get people together, and the more that you're able to say, I don't know, what do you think? That builds cohesion.
I agree,
Yeah.
100% agree. No man does it all by himself.
No.
No man does it all by himself.
Yeah. And sure, it's like, it's a humbling experience, it's like film, people work in film and they have a notion that they can just sit on the throne right away. No. In every single art form, you have to be the apprentice and then you become the master, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing that you had a lot of different experiences in, going through like the process, and I think it's important to just start at like a lower base level and get your kind of hours in to just
Yeah.
figure out what the different parts of the film set are, and
Yeah,
then
it's like if you think of it like a mechanic, the way a mechanic would look at a car engine. If to understand the engine, you have to know all the different parts, and it's like what Mike is saying. The better you know all the different parts that go into the mechanics of a film production, the better you understand every little part. The greater the whole will become. Basically, that's kind of the idea. And I think really a lot of directing. I mean, everyone's different. Mike has his own process. Greg has his own process. My own philosophy would probably be just, I see directing as being a lot about delegation and trust. I mean, those are kind of the two big things: delegation and trust. The ability to say, as you put it, the ability to say, I don't know, what do you think? Feeling comfortable. In other words, delegating to people. Like you have a great cinematographer. you don't need to, it's not about micromanagement. I think that's where some people, that's kind of a misconception some people have, where it's micromanaging. It's really about taking a step back, if anything, and just trusting people to do their jobs. So yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, you can know the different parts of the engine, and then just trust. You've got the right parts. It's just about kind of having the trust in them to get you where you want to go. Really, from a director's point of view.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, amazing! Yeah, that's definitely true. And what about yourself, Mike?
How I got started in films and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, it all started when I was a child, as it often does. Sorry, that was a terrible joke. All right. So
That is the next clip.
Oh my God, that's gonna follow me forever. All right. So my first love wasn't live action film. My first love was animation. So the particular family that I grew up in, there was certain films that we were and weren't allowed to watch. So most things were not allowed. Disney was allowed, animation was allowed, and certain haunting classics like Jumanji were allowed, because my mother, like, no joke, 10 years old, Jumanji traumatized me. I didn't finish it until I was like 18 years old. But anyway, to get back to animation, one of the things that I loved about animation was that there was bringing something to life, there was problem solving, there was taking something that literally doesn't exist and making it exist. The word animation comes from anima. Anima is soul, giving something a soul. So when I was a kid, like, I didn't really do a lot of live action, maybe an odd bit here or there. I was mostly animating and I was writing. And then as time went on, I thought I was going to be a writer, but I was looking at the short stories that I was writing, and I realized that I'm not a novelist. All the things that I'm writing are visual. They're oriented towards visuals and simplicity. So when I was 16, I think, I saw Fargo by the Coen brothers. And that, it was completely by chance. It was on Netflix. I was watching it with a mate. And from the opening shot, I felt something that I hadn't felt from other films that I had seen, which was a sense of a voice and a kind of there was a feeling within the shots. There was a feeling within the shots that wasn't telegraphed, And I just thought, these people are almost like casting a spell. It's like magic. And I felt a sense that I was being looked after, even as I was being taken to some very dark places. And that resonated with me. The darkness of the story, but the empathy resonated with me. And after that, I was completely hooked. So I would, again, speaking of that same family, my teenage rebellion was going to the library, renting out movies that I shouldn't be renting out, hiding them under my jacket and watching them at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So then went on, made a few short films in university. I studied English and philosophy, and then did a master's in screenwriting. And I've so far made how many shorts? About, probably, not as many as you. I've made about 6, I think. 6 in total. And 1 music video so far. 2 music videos. So that's 8 projects altogether. Yeah. Tomorrow, which will be Sunday the 26th, I'm shooting my next short film. It's called PayDay. And I'm very excited about it. It's an Irish, Dublin-based crime thriller with a bit of a social conscience. And we're crowdfunding for it at the moment. So if anyone has some loose coppers to give, it would really contribute to the vision of the film. So if you can, help us support PayDay. So thank you very much for that.
Amazing, yeah. So PayDay is the project that's happening tomorrow, right?
That's the project that's happening tomorrow. It's the first one that I've directed that I haven't written.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually wasn't aware of that either.
Yeah, you know Luke Brown.
Yeah.
So Luke Brown, his name is, he calls Luke de Bruin is
Luke de Bruin
is his name, and he's written it. It started off as a collaboration between us as kind of a writing exercise. It started off as a writing exercise, but it was too good to let go. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure how you feel about this. I'm not sure how about Greg feels about this. When I was younger, I loved writing, but now if I never have to write anything again, I'd much rather be on set. I'd much rather be dealing with the actors. I'd much rather be dealing with lights and cameras. I'd much rather be dealing with stuff that I can actually interact with.
Yeah. It's like, what was it? Or I suppose it goes back to what Hemingway once said: "Spoken like a true pretentious, pretentious."
Well, that's your department, isn't it?
Thank you. Yeah. I have to look, as you said. But no, what was it? Hemingway has that.
This is the longest he's gone without a literary quote. Go on.
Hemingway has that great quote about writing is easy. You just sit down and bleed at the typewriter.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. But anyway, I know what you mean about just wanting to I want to be there, I want to have something tangible and not have to agonize over a piece of paper for hours on end.
That's it, and it's a different kind of headache. Is that with the writing headache comes from within. And whereas all the other filmmaking headaches, they come from outside, and you're able to deal with those. Whereas writing can be you put a lot of pressure on yourself. I find I put more pressure on myself as a writer than as a director, because as a director, sure, there's pressure, but it's not about me. My job is to make sure that everyone is on the same team.
Yeah.
The ship is sinking, and I have to keep it afloat.
Yeah.
And, do you want your captain to be a panicky bitch?
No.
Even when things are going wrong, you have to keep a level of calm. No matter how many things go wrong, you have to keep a level of calm. And I love that. I love that. I love high-pressure situations.
Yeah, they both have their own challenges, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So you were talking about the difficulties of writing, and I think we can go back to that a little bit more later on. But I thought there was a little bit of a duality in what you were both saying regarding writing. You were saying, you gave the Hemingway quote that you have to just bleed, kind of suggesting that there's a kind of a higher calling to writing, etc. But on the other hand, you were looking at it more from a more people probably you having to go through multiple kind of reviews of the writing process, and you kind of not really liking that aspect, and that aspect kind of overtaking that other love for writing.
That's an interesting one. So I'd say that is that you can be good at something and not love every aspect of it.
I agree. Yeah.
And again, Tom and I are very different writers, and frankly, it depends on the story, because you can write stuff for fun. You can write poems. You can write short stories, whatever. But when you're writing a script for a film, it is a different thing, because you have to consider, at least I consider a lot. You have to consider, okay, so what's this character's mental state, and how is that going to guide them into the next scene?
Yeah.
What's the plot, and it's almost like it's more of a mathematical equation than it is of a pure expression of thought.
Yeah.
Ideally, a good script is an expression of both, because, you look at a conventional film comes from a plot and not an emotion. Whereas, maybe some more independent, alternative stuff comes from a place of emotion, but it may not appeal to a large audience.
Yeah.
So, ideally, at least for the kind of films that I want to make, I want to be able to express an emotion while have it be very plot-focused and tight, which is a kind of a contradiction, because they're coming from two different places. One of them is coming from here, and one is coming from there. So in order to get it to that place takes a lot of work, because you are negotiating between these two places. Do you know what I mean?
No, I do, yeah. I do. It's like you're trying to juggle I kind of think of it like you're trying to juggle the mathematical, the maths of the script with, again, the head and the heart. You're trying to juggle the maths of the script with, the artistic, the emotion you wish to express.
Yeah, and it's like the emotion you wish to express is very intangible. And you don't want to strangle that emotion.
No.
You don't want to strangle that emotion, But you run the risk of letting it run free and having it be completely chaotic and misguided.
Yeah.
So, that is, I think it's a beautiful process, but it's a painful one. It's the same thing as going to the gym. It's the same thing as getting good at anything.
You just have to put the time in.
You have to put the time in, and you have to learn at what point to embrace the emotion and at what point to put it aside. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I would also add to that and say, just in terms of putting the time in, I suppose if there happens to be anyone out there listening to this who's thinking of writing their first script or making their first film, but particularly with writing, I would also say there is no process. Like writing is kind of messy and abstract. Like we've all like
I'm gonna actively disagree with you, but I want you to finish your thought.
Okay. No, but I'd say when I say messy and abstract, I mean like you can go in and you can kind of have this notion of like, okay, I'll write every day, I'll try and get, 10 pages every day, 5 pages every day. But
Yeah.
at least, and maybe this is probably just my experience then, but I have days where I would say don't be discouraged if you have days where you're sitting there and you can only manage like a sentence or a paragraph. And then the next day you write 20 pages in a quick burst of inspiration.
Yeah.
It's all valid, because writing isn't just. We actually had this conversation
Yeah,
before.
we did.
Writing isn't just what you put in the page. Writing, you're thinking about it all the time. So much writing goes on internally. Even thinking about it counts as that's the act of writing.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
not just about filling page after page after page. A lot
Yeah.
of it is. Most of it is thought, and then that like hour where you finally pour it all out onto a piece of paper,
Yeah.
and then make sense of it
And
afterwards.
here I'm going to be very cruel, and I'm going to say that
Be cruel. Be cruel.
oh no, I because yeah, but anyway, is that writing is an art, but it's also a craft, and you can always get better at a craft. Is that if you have an emotion, you have to trust that that emotion isn't going to away. If you have an intellect or an insight, you have to trust that that isn't going away. But you can't count on that. You have to give yourself a certain amount of discipline. You have to give yourself a certain amount of motivation because it's not going to wait for you. It's not going to wait for you. If you want to make it happen, you have to literally make it happen. So think about it, trust the emotion, and then get to work. That's what I'll say.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I can tell you that after like 4 years, like a very dry period, the worst days of, no matter how bad writing is, the worst days of my life are when I'm not writing or when I'm not doing something. Do you know what I mean?
No, I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Completely agree with that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for that. The writing process. I think a lot of people are not aware of the different aspects of the writing process, so it's definitely a great thing for you to kind of go into that. But moving from that, so Greg, can you just talk about how you got into filmmaking, what inspired you to get into it, and how you are going about doing your movies, your favorite tools, etc.
Yeah, so I would have gotten into it like I think when I was younger, I was always kind of I always loved music personally, and I always loved like writing. Like in school, I would have done like little comic strips, and I think I wanted to be a novelist at one stage, and then when I was in secondary school, I thought I wanted to be a musician primarily. But yeah, I think I just always loved telling stories. I think that's where it all kind of started when I was a kid, and I'd take out the camera like Tom and like shoot stuff with my brother. But I think the where it actually, I suppose where I actually thought, oh, I could do this was one of my friends, Liam Boland. Two of us went to school together, and he introduced me to the Kildare Young Filmmakers, which is it's a local group out in Leixlip. That was in my local library that first 16 years of my life I never knew existed, but it was this whole studio up at the top of the library I didn't know. And over there, the youth workers kind of taught younger kids how to, like the basics of filmmaking, like how to operate a camera, how to edit, do sound, lighting, all that stuff. And so the youth leaders like John Conway and they they're all just amazing, you know. So as soon as I had one session with them, I was like, I found my people. Um, but yeah, I just I suppose I never directed a film while I was with them, but I was kind of always pitching and kind of working like in small parts on the film, like mostly doing sound or production assistant, but those they were huge informative experiences. So I guess I like from there I did my first short film like when I was 16, 17, around that. Didn't make another film for a while, just worked on whatever project I could get onto until my leaving cert. And then after that, I went to study film and TV in Griffith and did my 3 year degree there. I'm 2 years out now and mostly just making films independently. So my goal at the moment is to work um to make short films. I only have a few more I want to make, but I want to keep on working away on that until I until I'm out of ideas for short films, and then I want to move on to features after that. So longer form films, and so that's my goal at the moment that I'm working away on.
Nice, amazing. So you talked about being a novelist first. Could you maybe talk about what a novelist is and you know,
A
etc.
book, a book writer essentially. Um, so
Oh,
that
brilliant,
was
Hobbs. Well done.
sorry.
No, I was just being condescending. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no, so what like when I was younger, like I loved writing stories. I loved it. And there was I still have old copies of stuff I wrote, which who knows, I might twist around and turn to films one day. Just completely go back to the drawing board. I don't know. But yeah, for a while that was my number one goal, you know. And n now not so much, but I do want to try it again at some point in the future, you know.
And so what roles did you have you had within the filmmaking process so far?
Yeah, so I've done. I mean, outside of like props or makeup, like I've done most of them, I think. So I've done. I would say camera would probably be my least favorite or the one I'm least strong with. But I have given it a go a few times. Like directing and writing are definitely my favorite behind the camera. I'm also an actor. I love acting. I love being in front of the camera. Um, so I produce as well. I do assistant directing. I can do sounds, and I'd say most jobs. Oh, and editing as well. I do.
Great, yeah. And do you share any of the things that you heard Mike or Tom say about the writing process?
Definitely. Like there's I. It's funny to say. Like for a while, I used to, as I claim, write like a producer. When I say that, I mean I was kind of always writing with kind of my own restrictions in my head of like what can I actually do, like what can we actually bring to pass. And I there was a friend I met in college called Scout Stapp, and Scout always taught me about like, or always like Scout's very like doesn't bullshit, like tells you exactly what they think, and just we'll go through we'll read anything and just say I think we should do this, I think we should do that, and like just be very bluntly honest about notes. But and Scout's primarily a writer, kind of looking to work on some films like when we all regroup in Ireland when Scout comes home. But yeah, no, it's but Scout writes like a writer because Scout is a writer primarily, you know. So now these days when I try to write, I try to mo write more like a writer. Like the script isn't just an end to a movie, like it exists on its own, and it can be a separate thing to a film altogether. Like there's some scripts I've finished or taken to their end that I haven't shot. And I just it's it's a difficult process for me, I'll say, because I'm a very slow writer and I'm a slow reader. It's just I'm very it's harder for me to focus personally. But I whenever I do sit down, I always love the process. But I will say I do prefer redrafting than doing the first draft. So I think as a lot of my friends have taught me, like the first draft is what we call the vomit draft. It's like
Yeah.
because you have an idea, like you obviously have something in your heart that's like pushing you to tell the story, and like it's not gonna be great the first time, so you just get it out all on the page, you know,
Okay.
and then you have this big block, and then people say it's like painting, but I think it's more like sculpting, where like, you have a big block and you're kind of just chiseling away to kind of get
Absolutely.
to what you want, what you need. So the redrafting to me can be a lot more, fun than first writing because then you'd be like, oh, we could try this thing, or I could do this thing, or this line works better with that character, and then slowly and slowly, like, and I send my drafts to people just to say like, oh, what do you think? And then so slowly we get to a final one, and then it's all the better for that and that feedback loop, you know.
I like what you said, Greg, about writing like a producer versus writing like a writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that stuck with me because like for a few years, I was stuck as writing like a producer because, frankly,
here.
we all make our own independent films and we're all trying to get to the same place and trying to share resources and use whatever we have that's our disposal, as most independent young filmmakers are doing.
Yeah.
At a certain and the limitations are very important. Limitations provide structure, they provide challenge, they provide conflict, and story is conflict. I did find, though, that after a certain time writing like a producer, I hated everything that I was writing. Because I was like, okay, I'm thinking about an end product first instead of, do I actually give a fuck about what I'm writing?
Yeah.
You know, so now is the trying to write more like a writer is that is this a good story or not?
Yeah.
You know, and sure you can have limitations, but in order for us to get to where we want to go, with each project, you have to push your limitations further.
Yeah.
You have to throw in something that you're not sure that you can do, and then figure out a way to do it.
Swim out a little bit farther every time.
That's it. That's it.
I like that you just answered the question that I was about to ask.
2 steps ahead, playing chess, not checkers, baby.
No, but I do think as well, actually, what Greg was saying about enjoying the rewriting more. There's a saying. I think it was Scorsese. I'm pretty sure it might have been. It probably was Scorsese. He says a lot of smart things because he's smart.
He's a very smart man. Yeah.
He's a very smart man. But no, a film is made 3 times: when you write it, when you shoot it, when you cut it. You know. And actually, the funny thing about rewriting, I'm sure Greg and Michael have had these experiences too, where there's a certain amount of. I think there's a certain amount of you can once you go into production, once you're actually on set, what I personally find a lot of joy in, when an actor reads your scripts, it could be a line, it could be motivation, it could be an entire character. They'll be like, well, actually, here's an idea, and it'll turn out to be miles beyond what you thought of, and that's not. I mean, that again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about just picking the right people and trusting them to do their jobs. I mean, I love when someone comes up to me with an idea that I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. That's, do you know what I mean? I love when, it's like sculpting, as Greg said. I love when people come up with stuff that, there's stuff that you would never have thought of during the writing process that it takes a really good actor or a really good DP or something to bring out of it. You're like, oh yeah,
Yeah, for
so
sure.
it's an ongoing. My point is, what I'm trying to say, it's an ongoing process writing. So even once you get to a final draft, there's still that element of handing it off and watching it change again before your very eyes. It's a lot of fun. Rewriting is the best thing in the world. It's just the price you have to pay to get there. It's writing the first draft. Oh god. Those days where you're there, you can only write a paragraph. You start staring out the window. You start thinking, have I got any talent at all? Should I have just become a doctor or something instead? I'd spent 15 years in college, but you get again.
I wouldn't mind going back to college. You have no responsibilities. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you get out the other end and you're paid what? How many K a year? 70K a year?
You just have to spend 15 years in medical school.
Whatever. We love it. We love what we do.
Yes.
It's a challenge every day, and you do have to push yourself because unlike other professions, you have to be the one. Is that even as a director, you have to direct everyone on your team, but you have to direct yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be the one to wake up in the morning and say, all right, this is what we're doing, and you're talking to yourself. Okay, so shot listing, pre-production, props, costume, this is the amount of people that I have to talk to, and even if I don't feel like doing it, I'm doing it because this is what I want.
Yeah.
This is the role that I've given to myself, because no one ever is chosen to be a director. Directors appoint themselves because it takes a certain amount of, I'm going to say kind of arrogance. It takes a certain amount of arrogance to want to be a director, because why would you want to do that when you can actually have a job? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
When you could actually be useful to someone.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So but it's wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm in charge of myself.
Great, amazing. So I saw something on your profile regarding Scribium. Could you maybe talk about that?
Yeah, Scribium. So I have a bit of a habit. Greg and Michael will know exactly what I'm talking about. I have a bit of a habit of if I'm walking along or if something pops into my head, could be a string of sentences, could be an individual, could be a word, could be an individual sentence. I put it up on Instagram and feel like sharing it because I I suppose it's kind of my own way of trying to stamp a little bit of individuality, kind of put a little piece of myself out there. What I love about writing in general, it's without going too far down this road, without turning this into a therapy session. I think the reason, because I kind of feel the most. I do love directing. I really love directing, but it takes a lot of bravery. I think, because you have to. It can be kind of a scary job sometimes, because so much is resting on your shoulders and you're being bombarded with questions all the time, and you have to you know that you're the only one that can be driving it. Whereas with writing, I do like the solitary aspect of. I'm kind of a recluse by nature. I would consider myself a bit of an introverted, kind of a recluse by nature. So I do like that aspect of just sitting at my desk and dreaming up worlds, dreaming up characters, and I kind of feel safer on the page than I do anywhere else. And Scribians is just a collection of thoughts, a collection of those little worlds coming out. I sometimes call it, in my own mind, like I don't officially call it this, but I kind of think of it like what was this? What popped into my head the other day? Oh yeah, the depository of forgotten thought. Basically, I just like putting it out there, and then it kind of goes into the drawings as well. It's just about me, kind of stamping a bit of individuality. It's my safe space, basically. Very long word salad. All I meant to say was just it's my safe space, basically.
No, that's great. And it's good to have a safe space. And I can see that you create some. I always wanted to draw. I cannot draw, and your drawings are clearly of a high level, right?
The best compliments I ever got in my artwork was someone said, "Your drawings scream mental anguish." I'm like, great.
It's curious that whenever you talk about writing, very stark imagery comes forth, not only in the things that you actually put out, but also your quote about Hemingway, you need to bleed, anguish. Could you maybe talk about...
I think, look, all art, it's like taking all the best parts of yourself, the worst parts of yourself as well, in some cases, and pouring it all out there for the world to see, and in my case, see, this is where it's so subjective. I guess I can only speak for myself on this. I guess in my case, it probably says a lot about me that a lot of the stuff that I put into my own work is, pretty... in some cases dark, disturbing, stark, as you put it,
Or you could just be normal. I mean, but why would you want to do that?
Well, why would you want to do that? Yeah. No, but I do think you do have a point. You're not the first person. I've had friends, family members even point this out sometimes when they see the drawings and they read my writing. They're like, where does all this come from? Like, are you okay? Do you need a hug? But it's just my way of it's my therapy. It's cheaper than therapy. And
it's your own safe space.
It's my own safe space, and if my safe space involves some pretty, I'd be the first one to admit, some pretty disturbing imagery, some pretty dark imagery. Then that's the way it is. I wouldn't change it for the world, even if people think that you're like a latent psychopath or something.
I'm not at all.
Oh,
I'm not at all. I'm not.
Oh no! I don't know, but like I do kind of wear it as a badge of honor, though, to some degree, because I think we all want, every artist in the world, whether you're a filmmaker, painter, musician, writer, whatever, you want your art to provoke a reaction, like an immediate reaction.
Sure. I'm sure that you felt this because of in the films that you've seen, even the unpleasant ones, is that they resonate with you because you realize that you're having a dark emotion, but someone else in the world is as well. It's especially with film, I find film is a universal experience. It brings people together, even if it's something that they'd rather not talk about. It's I don't know, it's like one of my, maybe this reveals something about me, but when I'm in a bad mood, I can't watch a feel-good movie. I need to watch a feel-bad movie when I'm in a bad movie.
I'm the same.
You know what I mean? Because, it's do you want to lie to your audience and say, things is great, be happy, or do you want to say, this is what I'm feeling, it's not all good, but I'm expressing it because I believe there's value in expressing it, and I believe that there's value in hearing it.
This is my truth. Yeah, this is my truth. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it may not be pleasant, but it is the truth.
What did Greg say?
And I suppose not only presenting it, but like sharing that with everyone else as well, because they can, they can identify with that if they,
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And I think it actually kind of is a nice kind of bridge between what you just said and your mentor, Greg, who was
Mm.
about, speaking the truth and
Yeah.
showing, the truth into putting truth to your work.
Mm.
And also, Greg, while we are um, here, I also saw some music production, some music work. Is this
Mm.
something that you would like to touch on?
Of course. Yeah. So yeah, I always, I think as I mentioned earlier, like I did really want to be a musician at one point, but I kind of, I stopped that at I think fifth year in school because sorry, I didn't stop playing. I mean, but I thought that I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do or be in music. Like I just didn't have a clear idea of that. I think I was just trying to write too many styles. But I felt like I had more of a clear identity in film, so I stuck with that. But over lockdown, like in COVID, when I had more time to myself at home just to kind of work on things, I kind of because I love playing guitar. I mean, guitar always kind of stuck with me since school. I started writing some of my own songs then, and and worked on a lot of covers as well, and kind of just like changing up a few songs. I have a like for example, I have a acoustic bluesy cover of "Sexy and I Know It," which should not work at all. Like in theory, it does not work, but people seem to enjoy it. But yeah, I have a few songs that I had the pleasure of recording in Windmill Lane Studios. Unfortunately now Windmill Lane is shut down. It was a, it was a bedrock for our industry, and it'll be sorely missed. But I had the pleasure of going in to record, and I got I have recordings. I haven't put them out just yet. I'm looking to record just a few more and put them out as an EP later in the year. And yeah, but yeah, other than that, like I do whenever it comes up, I do gigs. I've done a few gigs with Ellis Nyer as you were mentioning earlier. So we've gone out together, done stuff like that. But yeah, I love like as well as the film community. I love the music community. They're all really supportive, and there's a lot of fantastic people I've had the pleasure of meeting. But I just love them, whether it's a party of like five people or whether it's a small crowd. Like I just love getting up and singing for people.
Yeah,
It really
nice, nice.
means a lot to
Yeah,
me.
it's great that you have additional passion that you can also then include in your filmmaking work. And you talked
Definitely,
about
yeah,
Ellis, right? And
yeah.
I think this is a topic that kind of connects all of us.
Hmm.
And just out of curiosity, where do each of you know Ellis from?
Should we start chronologically with who met him first?
Sure.
Yeah, well, me and Alice, he's been my best friend for over 10 years now, you know. Yeah, we go way, way back to first year of secondary school. And I remember we started, if I remember correctly, we met because we bonded over three things. One was Grand Theft Auto, because we're both mad about, gangster movies and crime movies. That's what led into Grand Theft Auto. Both loved, both hated the same classes actually, because we were both more, well, obviously, more kind of creative, artistic souls. Didn't give a damn about maths, science, biology, any of that shit. And then I suppose the other thing as well was he's just, everyone who's ever met him will attest, he's just the most easygoing, most affable, most approachable. You could talk to him about anything, And, we've been through, to try and way condense 10 plus years of friendship, we've just been through thick and thin together, up and down, back and forth, left and right, sideways. We've been all over the place with each other. It's great. And yeah, I think it's great because we've both kind of gotten to watch each other evolve as in our respective fields. I remember when he was recording his first few songs, and I remember he got to watch me kind of make my first few films. So it's been he's a very, very close and dear friend of mine. And yeah, the other lads met him Met him through me, I think, actually, at
Yeah.
at various birthday parties. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you meet him, Greg? Because I just met Alice this year.
I met him in 2019, so this was on Tom's 23rd birthday. Geez, that's so long ago now.
I know, so that I
Um,
feel old.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
break out the
think
walking stick. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think he was just back from he just taken a flight back. But yeah, I met him at Tom's party and we just got talking about music and films and all that. And no, he was a lovely guy, and I think we didn't really kind of talk. I think we because I think there was a while that we were kind of just chatting about doing stuff, and then kind of there was a while we didn't talk, and then just last summer I think we kind of got in touch again, and got connected again. As he filled in as an actor on a film that myself and Tom were co-producing.
Both the
He
crossroads, yeah.
Wolf the Crossroads, yeah. He came out to help as an extra originally, and then one of our actors couldn't do it, so he popped in for the role, and he was very very good for his first time.
He
Very very
was
good.
natural.
Yeah,
Natural,
very
yeah.
good. And yeah, so after that we just got talking, and he's helped me kind of on more of my film sets with just even coming to be an extra, or even just like allowed me to use some of his music as well, and some of the films that I've been posting recently, some of the stuff that's been finished up. So like
Rose-colored,
Lost in Colors was one of them. Yeah.
rose-colored or
Rose
something.
Colored Specs, yeah.
Yes,
Rose-colored
rose-colored
specs.
specs. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and talking about movies again, Mike, you were in a movie, or you directed a movie that won short horror?
Yeah, yeah. So last year, myself and Luke de Bruin um, worked on a project together, which we shot in Carrick Mines, Lahinstown, that part of the world. It's a short horror film which I wrote and directed called Friends to the End. It's just completed its festival run, so keep an eye out for releases very soon. We might be tying it in with the release of our next film, Payday.
Ooh.
So, yeah, that Friends to the End won Best Horror Film at the Bahia Independent Film Festival last year. Thank you, thank you. I deserve it. I deserve it.
Yes, you did.
Thank you. But all arrogance aside, it came from a. Oh, bro, thank you so much. Thank you. So it kind of came out of. To be honest, it came out of desperation because, as I mentioned earlier, I had a very bad 4 years where I wasn't doing anything. And in fairness, Luke had always been like I had. You don't get anywhere as a filmmaker without saying thank you to everybody. There's a reason why those speeches are so fucking long.
Yeah.
Right. So I had a lot of people supporting me, a lot of people rooting for me, but like it was still a very dark period of my life. And then I was getting a cup of coffee with Luke de Bruin one time, and he says to me, Michael, when are you going to make another short? Because at this point I hadn't made a short in 4 years, and I was like, if I can make something in a day in a field, I'll make it. And then he says, fine, let's do that. So that's where.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
that was literally the inception of the idea. What can happen in a field, and what can go wrong? And it was wonderful for me because I had developed my sense of taste, my personality, my filmmaking style subconsciously in those 4 years, going through all the stuff that I was going through. And Friends to the End was it was probably the first time I was able to express it. So it's I'm very proud of it. Not a perfect film by any stretch, but I'm proud of everything that we did. I'm proud of the actors, Liam Gaffney and Craig Leinster, and I'm very excited to see what comes out of it, because like I would say that it's the beginning of this chapter of my life. So hopefully onwards and upwards.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, two movies possibly coming out at the same time.
Yeah, that's right.
And Greg, yourself, you have a couple of different movies. There are some very nice looking posters that I saw. Can you just
Thank you.
put in, like, let's say, make it very, very quick, one sentence to each of the movies?
Sure. So Rose Code Specs, which was co-produced by Tom, was released recently on our YouTube channel. That was directed by my friend Dana, which kind of covers like toxic relationships and looking at things through rose-tinted glasses. So we released that recently, and I'd love. So far, we've had a very good viewership on it, and I'd love if more people could go check it out.
Amazing.
We also released Peak recently, which is a short I wrote. I stepped away from directing for this one. That my friend Morgan Mescal directed, and he did a fantastic job on it, and it's one of the ones I'm like probably one of the scripts I'm most proud of, I think. And more recently, we finished On Row at Cart, which was it was wrapped a while ago, but finished in post more recently, and we've had which kind of covers a man kind of coming out of prison, wanting to kind of change his life around, and certain things trying to pull him back into the lifestyle. So the we've had some festival success already. We won best indie production in Milan Independent Film Festival, and got accepted into Rome Prisma and Underground Cinema. So that's
Amazing.
awesome. Um, Two more. So Home is well the last film I've wrapped up on recently, and it's I'd say for me as a director personally, I think it's probably my favorite, the one that kind of resonates with me the most. So that story follows two childhood friends. One's moving away to start a new life, and they have um, one last night out before saying goodbye. And it's just all about all the things kind of left unsaid, like things, unresolved conflicts that kind of bubble up. And lastly, the last film I've wrapped on is called Flower Song, which to kind of briefly sum up is it's a period piece. It's kind of like a dark coming of age story set during the Irish witch trials, so it has a bit of historical context, with elements of fantasy and horror as well. So that follows two young kids who are like living in a village in the midst of an ongoing witch hunt and form an unlikely friendship through that. So far, I think it's probably one of the best productions I think that we've done altogether. And a fantastic team for that. So that's what I've finished up on at the moment, and looking to get out there.
Amazing. Great.
Yeah.
Great. And you said
But
favorite
that was
movie?
longer than expected. I do apologize.
Sure.
Yeah, so I was just saying that was longer than I expected, and I do apologize for that.
No.
How dare you be so productive,
Yeah.
Greg?
Humble bragging, backhanded compliment, motherfucker. Oh, I'm so
I just-
sorry about all the films I've been making. Sometimes I wonder if I'm making too much.
I just finished 5 films.
Oh, I just finished 5 films. It's no big deal.
We love you, Greg.
We
love
do,
you.
yeah,
We love
yeah. You humble motherfucker.
Yeah, well, that was still shorter than any of your rambles, so.
Oh!
All this is going
Snap!
to be...
If you were here in person, this is medium heat. Things will get heated,
Hey,
bro.
ladies and gentlemen, what
Go on.
you're witnessing is a Hollywood spat in the making.
Yeah. This is
Hollywood.
freaking and Coppola.
While we're talking about directors,
Yeah.
I think it would be criminal to not touch on the late but great David Lynch.
Yes.
Oh, I'm still sad.
Yeah.
I'm still sad.
I was having a really bad day when I heard from Tom, and I sent him a text. You're joking.
Unfortunately, I was not.
Yeah.
No, I was not.
Yeah. And so I don't know, I don't know where you were, but I was dealing with a pre-production problem, having a massive headache, talking with someone about how to resolve that problem, and then I heard that David Lynch died. We were in Pie in Dundrum, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a little drink, and I'm gonna sit down, and I'm gonna have a burger, because I feel like a burger is the appropriate meal to have
for David Lynch.
For David Lynch,
Yeah. No, it was, I kind of had a similar, I was in work when I found out, and it was, not that I was having a bad day, but I was already kind of having my own creative kind of struggle. I'm still in the middle of trying to finish a new short story, but and I was kind of humming and hawing about what to do. Then I saw the news, and I was actually kind of a similar thing where what's the appropriate thing to do? I was drinking a cup of coffee. I just actually made a cup of coffee when I got the news, and I said, well, here's to you, David.
Amen.
But I'll just say, without going off on a long tangent about him, because I know we're pressure for time, but I will say the one thing that I always admired about Lynch, what he taught me as a filmmaker, and I know you probably have your own things to say, and Greg too, about this, but what he taught me was, like, love him or hate him, the man was true to his vision every single step of the way. He was never afraid of going abstract and going really kind of out there, what other people would call us out there. And I think it's part of the reason why his work is going to endure, because you could watch a David Lynch film 5, 10, 15, 20 times and still, and I say this with nothing but love, you could still be no closer to figuring out what the fuck it actually means, know. But also, like, it's just cinema.
I don't think that it has to, like,
it doesn't have to mean anything.
Like what it means is, like, that's a very, I won't get into semantics or whatever, but just like, usually when we think that something means something, it's narrative. Okay, but David Lynch didn't make stories based around narrative. It kind of goes back to the beginning of the conversation. He always created from emotion.
Yes.
And people remember the weirdness, but what stays with you is how romantic he was. Like,
oh yeah,
all of his
100%.
films are extremely romantic. He's deeply in love with life, and he's deeply in love with people at their most vulnerable. And I think that
100%.
that's something that sticks with me from his work. What about you, Greg?
I have to admit that I've only, out of his work, I've only seen Blue Velvet and his acting role in The Fabelmans.
So you want to be a picture maker, huh?
Yeah.
But it's funny you mentioned Blue Velvet, because I was actually about to say, going on what you said on romance, it might be a controversial opinion. I would actually argue Blue Velvet is an incredibly romantic film in a very dark way, of course, but it's incredibly romantic.
It's romantic because it's about feelings, and it's about, like, if all story is conflict, then the greater romance requires more conflict.
Yeah. And it's one of those things. I feel like what I love about Lynch is you can watch any film of his and just steep in them. Like, again, just get completely lost in those worlds. Like, I would urge anyone listening who hasn't seen a David Lynch film, to drop whatever you're doing right now. It could be anything. Drop whatever you're doing right now. Go watch Eraserhead.
Oh yeah.
And then, in fact, take the entire day off.
There we are.
Take the entire day off. I'm going to speak directly to the camera this one. Take the entire day off. Clear your schedule and watch every single thing in David Lynch's filmography.
Yeah. All right. So
do it for science.
I agree with you. So if it has to be a top 3 for me, all right. So first of all, I've seen Mulholland Drive like 5 times. I saw it in the cinema, 35mm projection. It was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Let me see, Eraserhead But, like, I think honestly, the pièce de résistance is Twin Peaks. I feel like everything that is
Fire Walk With Me, or the entire TV show?
No, everything.
Oh,
everything that is David Lynch is in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Including Fire Walk With Me, including, dare I say, even the really terrible episodes of the second season when he wasn't there, dare I say it. I think those are all... That is part of his greater vision. That's part of his feeling. That's how he tangos with reality.
Yeah.
And in David Lynch's world, there's plenty of stuff that's very upsetting. So yeah, loads of people were complaining about the second season, whatever. Just grow the fuck up. I mean, like, there is artistic intent, and then there is how things are made. That's all. That, like, we're filmmakers. We know that when we are making something, the film that we're seeing in our head is not what we get.
Yeah.
It's always bringing something out of the Black Lodge, out of the Red Room,
yes,
into reality, and I think everything Twin Peaks captures that vibe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I would say for me, my top 3, probably in order of preference, Eraserhead, Blue Velvet, and then, funny enough, The Straight Story.
Okay.
I like The Straight Story because it's just a beautiful, really, really beautifully simple, actually, kind of existential, very human story. I've always really, really liked it. It's a very daring idea too, very daring concept for a film that only David Lynch would be able to pull off, I would argue. Yeah. I really think he nailed it.
It's like it ties in again with the romantic thing. Is that, like, the same guy who made Eraserhead
made The Straight Story.
Because he cares about people and he loves emotions and he loves he loves the simplicity. Do you know?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Greg, do you have any favorites from David Lynch that you may have not watched, but that you when you heard about them in a review or kind of summary that it kind of, touched on, touched you in some way?
Well, I mean, Blue Velvet is the only film I have seen from him, but from what I've heard, like in different reviews and like other people breaking it down, Mulholland Drive is definitely something I want to watch. Like, I'm probably gonna watch it straight after this. Like
Good
for
idea.
everything I've seen of it. Like I will admit, like everyone's talking about how they heard the news. I heard the news coming home from a funeral, which
Oh
was
no,
a.
that's
It
two
seems like
funerals in
none of
one.
us were having a
No.
great day, it seems. But
No one was having a good day when
no
David
one was
Lynch
having
died.
exactly. Yeah.
That I think we felt his presence leaving before it left.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, continue, Greg.
of course, but like I've even seen breakdowns of his work, like video essays of his work as well, and even comparing like what he didn't like of his own filmography, like his own Dune versus the new Dune, and like someone like breaking down the differences and hearing like David Lynch's thought on his Dune in like retrospect. Like even that I found pretty interesting as well, that he was able to self-criticize and learn from it when he was making something not out of love and something he didn't love, and obviously that kind of
Yeah.
made him embrace what he wanted to do even more so and what he did love.
Yeah.
And you always get the best results when you do that, when you care about what you do, and when the people around you are, when everyone's
Absolutely.
supportive,
Yeah.
when everyone has the shared goal, that's when you make your best work. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, and I think maybe we'll raise a glass to
David Lynch.
David Lynch.
I hope you're
Yeah.
enjoying
And
digital
digital one with you, so
Yeah, well, this is the best I could do, unfortunately, because I don't have a
yes.
cup.
Well, I'll do the sound effect. Clink. There you go.
Yeah.
That's some free ADR. for
Amazing.
you.
And then just for the very last one, your favorite, let's say, camera,
Okay.
and very short, very short, what you like about it.
All right. Well, I have my dream camera and my favorite camera.
Sure.
I'm not going to talk about my dream camera
Okay.
because that's just a dream.
All right.
I love the camera that I have right now. It's the G85. It doesn't do anything that I want it to do. Doesn't do anything that I want it to do. I'm fighting with it all the time. It's heavy, it's clunky, and it's crop factor. But I love it because it's how to describe. You have to learn how to love it. You have to learn how to love it, and you have to learn how to embrace its own textures, its own shape. And I find that with Panasonic, the colors in Panasonic are gorgeous straight out of the box, and I just love how textured it is. I feel like I'm looking, when I look at the monitor of the G85, I feel like I'm looking at water. For me it's beautiful.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. And I had a Panasonic myself, and I do definitely agree with the colors, etc. And I think you are a cat person. Anyway.
Really? Come on. Well, we can talk about that
Yes,
later.
yes, absolutely. Please, Tom.
Oh, good. Yeah, this is going to make me sound really underqualified. I'm really not a tech head, so I couldn't name a favorite camera. I will say probably my favorite camera that I've ever worked with, like not that I've owned, but I've ever worked with. I made a couple of films with the Sony A7S, the Mark II, which is a beautiful
Solid.
camera, very, very beautiful camera, very sharp, very crisp, very lightweight too, which is great, and it's fantastic. A lot of the stuff I did with it was fantastic at shooting in low light conditions as well, which is a big plus when you're making the kind of films that I want to make. So yeah, I would just go with that one, and actually I would say for the romance of it as well. In a film school, we got to work a lot with Aton 16mm cameras. A dream camera, honestly, for me would be an Arriflex. One of those going back to like the independent filmmaking of the 60s. Where
So what you want? You want to get the Arriflex and then be bent over to get the film for it. Are you joking?
Well, no, but I just love the romance of, like they did, Truffaut did or Fellini. Just get a 16mm camera, go out into the streets of Rome or Paris, and just shoot away.
You can get like Arri Alexa minis are starting to go for cheap now. So like I don't know, if it was me, I'd be getting myself an Alexa, But because I don't know, I personally don't have any romance over celluloid. It's a fun hobby to shoot, but we're filmmakers. We're already under time pressure. So why would we limit ourselves to 10-minute clips when we can go for hours and hours and hours?
Well, this is true,
Yeah, that is true. And Greg, what about yourself?
I think probably my favorite would be the Blackmagic
Nice.
6K. I think
Finally,
I
a camera I know.
yeah I love Blackmagic so much.
Very expensive
like
though.
Do you own one, Greg?
big time. I don't own one, no. I've like most like work DPs I've worked with, but I love the picture quality. If I could throw one more in very quickly, in Griffith we use the Sony FS7s. They have a very nice picture quality too, and they shoot 4K without like breaking the bank storage wise, where you could their backup is very economic compared to the Blackmagic, where the file sizes are much larger. They'd be my favorites for sure. I just love the look of them.
Yeah, for sure. No, Sony is fantastic. It's like we're going to be shooting PayDay on an FX30. It's it's my first time working with this camera. I have a very talented DOP, and it's their third or fourth time working with it. So, and the picture quality is gorgeous. It's fantastic in low light because PayDay again happens mostly at nighttime, and I'm very excited to see what comes out of it.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. Actually, I will say this was my favorite episode so far.
Oh, come on. Well, if it's my favorite episode so far too, for no reason.
It was actually.
Obi,
I'll
no,
be
dude.
honest.
Thanks, Mil, for having us.
Thank you very
Thanks a
much
million.
for joining. This was Slim and Light. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Obi.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Amazing.